Major breaking news developing in the Spencer and Monique Tepe double murder from December 30th, the early morning hours between 2 and 5 a.m. We are now learning that an arrest warrant was issued in connection with that double homicide. And according to court records obtained just moments ago from Franklin County Municipal Court, that warrant was issued for ex-husband Michael David McKee, date of birth June 29th, 1986. We are getting this almost as much in real time as you are receiving it right now. We're going to have best guests who are here to break it down. But again, a major development in the Spencer and Monique double murder with an arrest warrant being issued for a double homicide. And that suspect who is in custody, who's under arrest, is the ex-husband of Monique Tepe, Michael David McKee, who is a vascular doctor.
Welcome to the global phenomenon, Surviving the Survivor. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning journalist, Joel Waldman.
What's up, SDS Nation? Welcome to Surviving the Survivor. This is the show that brings you major breaking news and also a nightly panel, the best guests in true crime. Today is one of those days when we're getting some major breaking news. And as you heard off the top, an arrest has been made in the double murder of Spencer and Monique Tepe. Now, we try to vet everything, and we have a couple of amazing best guests, and more are going to be rolling in to help figure this out. I want to be clear. This is in the very initial stages. These types of cases are always fluid. Things could change. Information could potentially be wrong, but this is what we have as of right now. The defendant, according to this warrant, is Michael David McKee, and COE, if you can bring up the warrant if we have it. The case number, CRA 000517. The warrant was issued. The status is closed. Jurisdiction, Columbus, Ohio. The charge is murder, and 2 counts of murder are listed in the charging section. A supporting affidavit for determination of probable cause has also been filed. Fingerprints are being taken, and on we go. This is the mugshot of Michael David McKee, and I want to give Jay, our dentist friend in Kentucky, a huge shout out. He's one of the people who flagged us on this early on, and here is the mugshot. And I always say best guess, better community. But without further ado, please welcome to the show retired Columbus, Ohio homicide detective Jay Fulton. And also, you guys know Jeff Weninger, retired LAPD lieutenant, the author of On Thin Ice. And he is also currently and formerly, he was an Ohio native, worked in LA, but he is back in Ohio. But Jay, let's go to you first. This is confusing for a lot of people, including myself. Tell us what this warrant means. We're not looking at the actual warrant here. COE, I don't know if you can pull that up, but this is the mugshot of the doctor. That is the warrant. Jay, walk us through this. What is this?
So once the investigators in this case established a probable cause to believe that Mr. McKee was, in fact, the person that committed this offense, they would go and swear out a warrant and file it with the Franklin County Municipal Clerk's Office. And we're looking at the clerk printout there. That indicates the dates and times, the identifiers of the defendant. Additionally, there would be a probable cause statement that they would swear to in front of the clerk. That in Central Ohio and Franklin County, particularly where this offense occurred, the charges are filed in municipal court in Franklin County, and there will be a hearing within a certain amount of days of that filing to transfer that to state court, to the Common Pleas Division. So all cases start in the Muni court in our system here.
And Jay, back to you real quick. What does the Columbus police need to have in order to execute this, to go out and make this arrest?
Just like everybody, I think, that makes an arrest, these warrants are issued based on probable cause. So the affiant or the primary investigator would establish what he determines to be probable cause that Mr. McKee committed this offense, he would go swear to the facts that are known to him at that time and go ahead and file that warrant. So the investigation over the past 10 or 11, 12 days has allowed those detectives that are working this case to establish probable cause in their mind. That would be reviewed by their chain of command, and then they would go and swear out that warrant and put a national holder on that.
Jeff Wenninger, thank you for being here, and thanks for the explanation. Jay, once again, we got 3 J's on the panel. I love it. But Jeff Wenninger, you know, you're retired, but you can't take the police officer out of a retired person. And you were texting me all sorts of things, curious about the outcome. Number one, are you surprised by this? Number two, just your general thoughts that apparently right now they have Michael David McKee. That is Dr. Michael David McKee, the ex-husband. Now, I believe they were married or divorced, I should say. This is the first husband. They were divorced, and STS Nation, help me out here. In 2017, there was some sort of, divorce, law, some sort of legal dispute after the divorce that was about 55 pages long. But Jeff, your initial reaction to hearing this?
Well, my initial reaction is it's not surprising. He's probably the first person that they were looking at, especially the fact that there was some recent activity in the family court. And you're talking about the separation of assets from their prior marriage. And unfortunately, that times often can lead to these types of acts occurring. So, knowing what we know now about his arrest and the activity in their family law case, I'm pretty certain that the Columbus PD, they were on top of this from the get-go. And, the first question that came to mind for me was, is in fact the person that was captured on that video that they released, this particular individual? I would suggest perhaps not, because I see that this individual with the warrant, he's 6'1", 200 pounds, and that individual on the video appeared to look much larger. But that's not that person wouldn't be of interest to know what he saw or heard or something. He perhaps could be some level of a witness in placing this individual there. In speaking to Jay prior to going live here, we were talking, and he said apparently they had been tracking the suspect's vehicle for some time, and they can actually place the vehicle at the location at the time that they believe these crimes occurred. So that's all very relevant stuff. And it sounds like to me that kudos to Columbus PD and Jay's fellow peers. They did an outstanding job, and their record, like you mentioned on other shows, is unbelievable. An 84% clearance rate this year. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. That news came out yesterday. Jay, that's an exceptionally high clearance rate, 84%. How long have you been out of the force there in Columbus? And also, can you talk about the magnitude of this case compared to some other high-profile cases that you may have been a part of?
Yeah, I retired in 2020, December of 2020, after 33 years, and the last 17 of those were in the homicide unit. And that unit is prides itself with hard work, dogged determination, and we get a lot of good supervision in that chain of command. It allows the detectives to do their job, and a lot of really bright young detectives are working in that unit now. So as far as cases like this go, I believe maybe I could count on one hand the amount of homicides I worked in 17 years that had this kind of national footprint. But that being said, that adds to the pressure. But these guys and gals that work in homicide, they worked through that. They did the basic, that's homicide 101, and then establishing that suspect, and then establishing that evidence and collecting it and preserving it. And that leads to a successful conclusion.
We've got 3 of the finest. Jay, please meet Detective Phil Ramos, homicide with Las Vegas Metropolitan PD, retired. Did did 30 something years in the force there. Phil, you were one of my first calls just to try to figure out this warrant. This is prior to me getting to know Jay Fulton here, who's with the formerly with the Columbus Police Department. But number one, I don't think you guys are ever surprised, but I'll ask you, Phil Ramos, are you surprised about these developments? First off, and what do you make of this warrant here?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, we've been talking about this for days now about, the lack of forced entry and the familiarity of the suspect with the house and stuff like that. So, kudos to the detectives that were working this, man. I'm sure these were long, hard 12, 16-hour days that they put in just to get to this point. It's one of those things that, like we've said, you have to keep an open mind. We were all thinking this is going to be a deep, dark secret. And I don't know if this, rises to the level of a deep, dark secret, but it is a set of circumstances that we see way too often. And domestic murders are one of our top calls in homicides. And in this particular case, we all knew that it was someone that was familiar with both victims. And yeah, I'm not surprised.
So if you're just joining us now, we've just been on the air for about 11 minutes, and this news is incredibly fresh, but an arrest warrant was issued for the double homicide of Spencer and Monique Tepe. And as far as we know, this is the man who is in custody now. This is at the Winnebago County Sheriff's Office. I got to be honest, I'm not 100% sure where that is, but I'm sure someone at STS Nation, it might be Illinois. This person here was employed, as far as I know, as a vascular surgeon or a vascular doctor of some sort out of Rockford, Illinois, and is Monique Tepe's ex-husband. Jeff, let me just go back to you. The same question that I asked Jay, who was formerly a detective, homicide detective with this very jurisdiction, the Columbus Police Department. In terms of having, the probable cause to move forward, what sorts of things does that entail? Do you think they have a match with ballistics? Do they have him on video? I mean, how strong does the evidence have to be to go and arrest this guy for a double murder? And COE, if we can get this is great. And then if we can get just the mugshot stand alone, that'd be even better. But you see this guy, large jowled man. There was talk. I personally have not been able to corroborate this. There was talk that he was remarried within a month after divorcing Monique. There was also some sort of divorce dispute afterwards, 55-page legal document that I know the COE is working on it. But Jeff, back to the question of probable cause. What sorts of evidence would they have to present in order to make this arrest?
Well, it requires that the investigation provide them with some articulable facts where they can articulate it's reasonable to believe that the crime had occurred and this individual was associated with it. And, in talking to Jay prior to getting on here, it's my understanding that they're able to identify his vehicle there and know that the vehicle was there during the time frame that these crimes occurred. They've probably been doing all kinds of things with electronic communication. One thing that it also brings to mind is that when we were talking in the past about the concern that the employees at the dental facility had, and that we felt that that was just so soon that they were worrying about the welfare of this couple, that perhaps there were things that were said to them by Spencer that led them to believe that due to what was going on with this court case, that this individual had been acting perhaps kind of erratically, unpredictably, and that they actually had concerns for their own safety.
Yeah. Jay, since you're I think the closest in proximity, both, from a career perspective and a geographic perspective, are you familiar with Winnebago County?
I'm not familiar with Winnebago County. I do believe it is in Illinois. There was some indication that maybe the city involved was Rockford, Illinois, which I believe is.
You see here, Winnebago County is in Illinois, and he's linked to the county seat, Rockford, Illinois. Yeah, he has an office there. So Jay, speak to us about this. I assume he's in custody then in Winnebago County, near Rockford, Illinois. Is that correct? And what happened? What happens now is he has to be extradited back toward the county that holds Columbus, Ohio.
He would, and so that would be a function of a court there in Winnebago County. Sometimes people will fight their extradition, and at that point, Columbus investigators would have to lay out their case to the courts in Winnebago County. The first thing that's going to happen is, and it's happened already, there'll be Columbus detectives en route to Winnebago County to attempt to interview Mr. McKee in regards to his involvement in this crime. And so they will have to attempt an interview. I have no idea what Mr. McKee's opinion on speaking with authorities is going to be. Subsequent to that, they will have a extradition hearing, at which time basically our investigators will explain to the court why we have probable cause to bring him back to Franklin County, Ohio, to pursue the case in the legal system.
And Jay, do you happen to know how far Columbus is from that part of Illinois?
I think Rockford's just about an hour west of Chicago. So I suppose it's a 7-hour drive.
Okay, about a 7-hour drive. You got three of the best right here. And Phil Ramos with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department for years and years and years. Pull back the proverbial curtain now. Phil Ramos, just tell us the process. I mean, he's got to be fingerprinted, booked, and then ultimately brought before a judge for arraignment. At what stage of this are we at now? Like, do you think he's already been fingerprinted? He's been arrested according to Detective Jay Fulton. He's probably already, he's under arrest as we speak. But where are we with the rest of this process in terms of booking, fingerprinting, and all that comes now?
Well, that all depends on the booking process at whatever detention facility he's been sent to. If they're busy there, he still could be in the fingerprint and photograph stage. But if it's a smaller jurisdiction, if they don't have a whole lot of inmates that they have to process, that all that could have been done, and he'll be in a holding cell, likely by himself, waiting for the detectives to come and interview him or try to interview him. Certainly, they will try to obtain buccal swabs, his DNA, if there's DNA evidence to be compared. And behind the scenes, the lead detectives that are going out there to talk to him are working with their partners and tying up loose ends that they would have had while they were preparing their affidavit. The probable cause affidavit is relatively not as detailed as the arrest report and stuff like that. It'll, number one, was there a crime committed? Who was the victim of the crime? And why is he a suspect in the crime? What circumstances or what physical evidence, direct physical evidence, do they have that linked him to the crime itself that would give them the probable cause for a judge to say, yeah, okay, go get him.
Jeff Winninger, this struck me as very odd right here. And we love dogs. So odd. They've been divorced since 2017. Of all the scenarios we were talking about, I mean, he always came up. The ex-husband always came up, but sort of as an afterthought, like he's moved on with his life. I know the COE is working to get some chunks out of that divorce settlement that they had, which is 55 pages of the divorce dispute, and she'll get us some of that. But is there any, I guess, at least mild surprise on your part that this is an ex-husband from, I mean, this is now 9 years ago as of 2026. It seems like a long time ago, as if this guy was holding some sort of grudge, and then to finally snap essentially on the last day of the year of 2025, your second to last day, and go and kill these two. Do you find that a little bit strange?
Not so much considering the specific circumstances of this case, where we have just learned that there were some rulings relative to the family court case in the division of assets. When you're talking about the division of assets, that that can basically cause people to to have some emotional responses where they carry out these types of things. So, yeah, I suspect very early on the Columbus homicide detectives knew of this, and that's why they were very, they held their cards very close to their chest, and they'd been working this angle from the get-go. I don't believe at all that this was something that they just fell into their lap yesterday and they got some information. There's no way. They've been working this from day one, and I suspect that with every passing hour, more and more evidence was pointing in this direction. It was about dotting their I's, crossing their T's, and doing the things that they knew they needed to do to maintain the integrity of this investigation, to ensure that this prosecution is going to move forward without any hitches in the giddy up, and that it's going to all the evidence is going to stand the muster of the defense in court. So, it's not surprising. I'm sure they're very busy right now. I suspect that Columbus homicide detectives were already there in Rockford, Illinois, at the time that this guy was taken into custody. We've got all kinds of warrants that need to be served and stuff on his residence and those sorts of things. I'm sure they're going to be looking for the murder weapon if they don't already have that in custody, and those sorts of things. There's going to be a lot of work for them. Their job has just begun.
Yeah, and Jeff, just going back to this photo, did you say this doesn't look or does look like the person from the surveillance video? And I apologize. We've got a family of 3 kids, and I could never say this at Fox News Channel, but this is the reality of podcasting. It's a family affair here. So the wife's running out to get the kid, and then we're gonna get you some more info. We'll get the Walking Man video up for you and some divorce information. But and bear with us, and I say this all the time. For those who are just joining, by the way, this is Surviving the Survivor, the show that brings you the best guests in true crime. We do these panel shows every single night of the week. Fridays with my mother, the matriarch of true crime, 86 years young, also a child Holocaust survivor, hence the name Surviving the Survivor. But we do have breaking news that Monique Tepe's ex-husband, Michael McKee, a vascular doctor from Rockford, Illinois, is in custody in Winnebago County, Illinois. This is the man that we're looking at. But Jeff, does this look to you just, and I know it's so difficult to tell from a mugshot, like the guy that we may have seen in that footage?
Well, when I look at the mugshot, I'm not really paying attention to any facial features or whatnot, because we didn't see any of that in the video. Basically, what I'm just looking at is the height and the weight. 6'1", 200 pounds. I just got the perception that the individual in the video was a bit larger than that. You would be able to tell. There's scientific ways to do analysis on those videos to get a pretty accurate depiction of the height and stuff of that particular individual. It may or may not be, but my initial instinct would be that that individual in that video perhaps is not him, but it very well may be.
Yeah. Phil Ramos, every time I look at these, I'm like, this guy literally took 2 lives, took parents of the 2 young children, and now took his own life, essentially, because this will go through the court system, and almost without a doubt, he'll end up, barring anything major here, he'll end up before a jury of his peers and will likely get convicted. That's the way it goes. So it makes you scratch your head. You see here, thank you, and thank you to STS Nation. This is why I always say best guest, better community, because you guys are always on top of everything. WBNS in Columbus is reporting he was identified through neighborhood surveillance video. They tracked him to a vehicle, which was his vehicle. So, Phil, again, just walk us through the process. I mean, we were hearing that the Columbus homicide division has an 84% clearance rate. That's got to be among the highest in the entire nation. I mean, that's an amazingly high number. So kudos to law enforcement, who are always getting beaten up. This is the reason you need to lift them up and not beat them up. And these are the guys who crack these cases. But Phil Ramos, walk us through this. They obviously did canvass the neighborhood, did canvass for surveillance video, and found this guy, right?
Yeah. And, we talked about that at length. They would have done quite an extensive canvass of the neighborhood, and especially with security cameras that they could see from driving around in the neighborhood. So they would have asked those people, can you check your cameras, or would you mind if we reviewed the footage on your cameras? And once they were able to identify the vehicle, that is what their focus would have been on, tracking that vehicle throughout the process of how he would have got in there and how he would have left. And it's a lot of man hours went into that. And
Yeah.
like we said, we don't that's the kind of stuff that you just don't release because you're hot on the trail, and you can't let anybody know that outside of the investigation, because you don't want this guy to disappear and you don't want anybody helping him. It's a matter of keeping it as close as you can, which we spoke about at length. And looking at him right now, that guy's an angry guy, man. And that booking photo, he's not happy to be there. And just like Jeff was alluding to, something pushed him over on these proceedings and decisions by the court. You're going to lose your house and you're going to have to pay her $3,000 a month type of thing. We don't know what it was, but whatever it was pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, Detective Jay Fulton is with us. He is formerly with the Columbus Police Department as a homicide detective. He retired in 2020. Thank you for your service. I mean, Jay, how closely were you following this in the days leading up to this arrest today? Again, the ex-husband, Michael McKee, Dr. Michael McKee, now in custody. How closely were you following it, Jay? And
well, in the days after it happened, of course, you got the holidays going on, and then I tip my hat to my wife. She pays more attention to the crime news than I do, and
make sure she subscribes to Surviving the Survivor. Go ahead, Jay.
Well, she pointed out this sounded interesting, knowing that I spent a lot of years doing that, and so I started looking at it. I did have a chance to consult with one of the local stations and go on one of their programs, given my 2 cents or my ideas on that. So yeah, I began to follow it. It's clearly with the involvement of the children, the demographic of the victims, it's going to be one that grabs this national attention. So it certainly got my attention, and this would have been one of my first thoughts as well. This is the person that's either got to be cleared or has to be talked to. And so, and I do believe they've had, like our other guests have pointed out, this guy came into the crosshairs within the first 12 hours. And it was not necessarily because we had information or they had information that he was involved, but because that person has to come into the crosshairs in a situation like this. They have to be cleared. We have to establish where they were. And that would have been job one for at least 2 of the detectives that are on that team to let's start by eliminating the likely or obvious. And the cameras, which are becoming more and more prevalent in all jurisdictions, were invaluable in this investigation. And I think that request to the public, where it's just, if it's your Tesla cam, if it's your door cam, where they put that thing out, that's exactly what helped them to compile this, the arrival time of the vehicle, the amount of time the vehicle spent, and the vehicle leaving. And once they made that connection, it would have been all hands on deck to review this video. And
Joel,
go ahead, Jeff.
I would just say everything's pointing that Columbus PD knew very early on who it was. It wasn't as if they were obtaining all of this video from people's security cameras and things, and then putting it out to the public saying, do we know who this person is? They sent that one out, but I'm certain that the ones that captured this particular individual that ultimately had the warrant and he's been arrested now, they knew who he was. And the reality is more likely than not, he would have traveled on the Ohio Turnpike. And that's all about license plate readers, the whole system. They would have known when he was arriving in Columbus. They would have known, when he was returning back to the Chicago or Rockford area. I'm very familiar with that because I played ice hockey in Dubuque, Iowa, and it's not far from Rockford. I would sometimes on my way to Dubuque, I would stop and stay at a hotel in Rockford. So I'm very familiar with that city, and it's
what kind of neighborhood is Rockford? I don't really know. I mean,
it's kind of like an industrial town. It's middle class industrial town, but it had a minor league hockey team there and things like that. It struggles a bit financially, I would say. It's hit some tough times, but it's not a bad community.
Yeah.
But the route he would have taken probably would have took him up through Chicago. All those routes are like toll roads in these day and age. You're not throwing change and paying with a credit card. They're sending you a bill in the mail.
Yeah. Jeff, you guys are on Eastern Standard Time in Ohio, right? Across the state. Yeah. So the Columbus Dispatch, which is obviously the paper of record for Columbus, Ohio, the epicenter of this case, has a story that just crossed the wires saying that he was booked into jail in Winnebago County, which is near obviously Rockford, or where Rockford is seated, as we said, at a little before noon. I assume that's local time. So that would be about 1 Eastern time, which is roughly an hour and 40 minutes ago. So this is literally just all unfolding. We're talking about his arrest was just an hour and 40 minutes ago. And kudos to SDS Nation for flagging us left and right once the news started to trickle out. But if you are just joining us, I need to restate this. The ex-husband of Monique Tepe, Dr. Michael McKee, is under arrest in Winnebago County, Illinois, and will certainly be extradited back to Columbus, Ohio. Now, Phil Ramos, there was, let me go to, I was going to ask you one question. I'm going to pivot to another. If you're the lead detective on this, does anyone speak to this guy until either you get there to Winnebago County or he gets to you?
No, the agency leading the investigation will call the agency where he's in custody and say, hey, just make him comfortable. Don't let anybody talk to him. Ask for his attorney, make that happen. But please don't start asking him where he was and, that kind of thing. You can't. No, it's not the protocols that we follow. The guys with the most information about the case are going to be the only ones to speak to this guy.
Yeah. And Detective Jay Fulton, who retired from Columbus PD in 2020, you just talked about this a little bit, but I just want to extract a little more from you here. From the Columbus Dispatch, Columbus homicide detectives identified McKee through neighborhood video surveillance. Police mentioned this in the court documents. They tracked the suspect to, quote unquote, a vehicle which arrived just prior to homicides and left shortly after. They found the vehicle in Rockford, Illinois, and found evidence that McKee had the vehicle before and after the killings. I mean, it's said over and over, how hard it is to get away with crimes because of the digital footprint, not just in people's homes, but license plate readers all the way along. This day and age, 2026, how much easier let's say from the beginning of your career at the Columbus PD to now has it become to track vehicles using digital forensics here?
Yeah, they got tools we would have only dreamed of having, and it's great. And like I said, I think you go all the way back to the release of the Alley Man. Mm-hmm. In my opinion on that is it may or may not be him. Likely it's not him. But what it did do is engage those people in the neighborhood that had cams, like I say, Ring doorbells, all the different security systems, to go check theirs, to add to this pile of information. You're kind of engaging the neighborhood and make kind of deputizing them almost to pay closer attention to what they have on their cams. So I think that was a key release of evidence without giving up what we think they probably already knew, but that's spurring the neighborhood, the citizens there in that area to double check their cameras. And that stuff might have been that information gleaned from that might have been some of the key video evidence that helped to track this individual.
This is Dr. Michael McKee, a vascular doctor. I'm not sure if he's an actual vascular surgeon from Rockford, Illinois. He was married to Monique Tepe. They divorced in 2017. Jeff Wenninger and Phil Ramos, let me go to you. I mean, you guys are always, it's like, in no way do I mean this. You guys are half, I was going to say you're like almost like hairstylists. You go to get your hair cut and you're there half therapist and half there to cut your hair. You guys are half law enforcement, but you're half therapist. You guys are observers of human nature. Now, this divorce was in 2017, and someone pointed out that alimony stops if you're remarried. What does your gut here tell you, Jeff? Was this a scorned lover who just couldn't get over the fact that his ex-wife moved on? You think it's financial?
Well, I guess I'd have to look at the ruling in this 55-page family court document relative to what was determined.
On that note, STS Nation, if you guys want to feed me some information about that 55-page divorce settlement, I have read it, but I am not Rain Man, so I don't have it all locked in. But if you have any stuff that you want to put into the chat, let me know. Also, if you have questions for these amazing investigators, drop them in with a capital triple Q. But go ahead, Jeff. Sorry about that.
But yeah, I mean, that would kind of give me a better idea if I had access to that. But, the one thing that I find a little peculiar is what was reported is that Monique, the wife here, she died from a single gunshot wound to the chest. And when you're talking about somebody being having an emotional type of, response type killing, it oftentimes would be more of an overkill than that. So that's the one thing that I'm a little shocked that she's not the one that perhaps would have had maybe some signs of overkill. But
it almost indicate that he was more pissed off at Spencer.
Yeah.
Whether Spencer had inserted himself into this thing, like I'm going to protect her, or I'm going to, you need to leave her alone. If there'd been any interaction like that, this is all stuff they got to track down, obviously. But he's the one that likely pissed this guy off, where he put his thoughts into and that's a 6.5 hour drive while you're thinking about what you're going to do when you get there. So this is not a crime of passion, if you will, even though it might have been ignited by passion. This is a thoughtful, thought out, pre-planned double homicide.
And I 100% agree with Jay, because, go back to the fact that we were initially a little uncomfortable with how quickly all of his partners and people he worked with at the dental facility were wanting to do this welfare check. And now knowing that there was this family law case and that there were findings, and it's obviously quite extensive, 55 pages. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've been divorced and none of mine are 55 pages. So, the reality is that this obviously was fairly complex. We are talking about an individual who's a vascular doctor, right? He's got to be making some significant money. And, what was she entitled to that during the period of time? It could be substantial. And, so that, it can cause people to engage in this type of violent act. But I think Jay's spot on that Spencer was actually the target, and the fact that the people that he worked with, people that he would interact with and share what's going on in his personal life, not only those people that he worked with, but the people that lived locally, because we also were questioning, why were these friends that lived locally so concerned and that they were there doing a welfare check? They knew something. And
he's probably explained to at work, man, he bothered us. I mean, he won't stop calling her. I don't know what I'm going to do about. I mean, I think that's all going to come out, and obviously that's not stuff that they would have released early on, but they've interviewed all these people. I mean, the neighbors, the coworkers. I mean, they've spent time with them, and if he expressed any concerns about this, that's once again, it's going to propel this guy to the front of the line.
Jay, do you think they interviewed Dr. McKee prior to his arrest, maybe a couple of days ago?
I would think so. But once again, you got so much going on in Columbus. You may have just done a telephone. He's in Chicago. We just wanted to inform you that your your ex-wife is deceased in a suspicious thing, and obviously we need to ask you some questions about where you were at the time, and it may not be an effort to put him as a suspect, but just to get a statement, get something in writing, get okay, I was working in Chicago. All right. And hey, thank you. And now we have something that we have a statement. If we can prove a lie at that point, if we can put him on the defensive, lock him into some kind of story. You wouldn't have had to read him his rights at that time because it's a non-custodial type of situation. Anything you can do to get him talking to you, whether it's going to Chicago, and I have no knowledge whether they did or just picked up the phone, but it would have been somebody you would have put on blast and talked to in the early hours, if not days, of this investigation.
Yeah. On behalf of STS Nation, I just want to take a little breather here and say, when these cases break and they become these media sensations, and I am the recovering broadcast news journalist out of the group here, there's all kinds of speculation. And I try to, kind of pump the brakes a little bit, and people in our own community, myself, everyone involved, I think is guilty of, trying to figure these cases out. And that's what intrigues people. And with that comes pointing fingers. The boss of the dental agency in Athens, Ohio, was getting criticism. People in the family were being criticized. The brother-in-law who came on our show, Rob Misla, people thought, oh, well, he looked like the walking man. What I want to say now is everyone's got to always take a deep breath and realize these are real people, real stories. On behalf of STS Nation, our condolences do go out to the Tepe family. This is an absolute tragedy. I'm hoping that Rob Misla and his family can now take some time. There's a service tomorrow. There's never closure, but that you guys can come together, that the people of the dental agency can come together. I read that they lost another dentist recently. They've got to be reeling. It's got to be difficult reading things about yourselves in the news. And that just compounds the tragedy. So on behalf of STS Nation, we are with you. If there's any way we can help you on the platform, let us know. And again, the ex-husband of Monique Tepe, Dr. Michael McKee, a vascular doctor, has been arrested. And here's a super chat. Columbus PD is a fantastic police department. They are top-notch as far as solving crimes. Just amazing department. I also understand that their academy, where it all begins, is first or second in the nation. Kudos to them. Yeah, he's a vascular surgeon. Kudos to the Columbus PD, too, because they were taking heat. Chief Elaine Bryant, people were saying, what's going on with her? Why isn't she speaking out? They obviously had their person in their sights, and this is a little reminiscent of Brian Koberger. That arrest took 7 weeks in the Idaho 4 murders. This obviously a much shorter amount of time, and it looks like they have their man. Phil Ramos, we asked Jeff about this, but you're the guy with just so much experience. What does your gut tell you? Is this just pure jealousy or financial at its core? Because it sounds like alimony payments would have stopped, and she went on with her life, and it looked like he may have been struggling.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit of both. And I agree 100% with Jeff and Jay that here's this guy. He's got to be making some pretty good money. And I'm sure that whatever these rulings were recently, he had just had enough. It had been several years. And what was the mood and the atmosphere in regards to the divorce and the resulting settlements, up until the point where whatever pushed him over the edge. And this guy's not a dummy. You don't get to where he's at, not realizing that you're going to get caught. The digital footprint that he would have left is unbelievable. So many people, thank goodness, are not aware of the digital information that's available to us these days. I mean, within a few hours, the cops would have known how many cell phones were within a certain area there, and what those cell phones, who they belonged to, and how long were they Were they having conversations, or were they just pinging off of towers? So once you get to the point that you have made that decision, you're going to go out and commit this horrible crime, all reason goes out the window. You don't think things through, and you don't realize that there's going to be a lot of evidence against me, whether I try to hide it or not. And it doesn't sound like he was trying to be very surreptitious about it, because he just went over there, killed him, and decided, that's it. I'm a little surprised, because many times we see this happen in a situation like this, that he didn't go out and kill himself someplace else.
Yeah. Jeff, just generally speak to the fact, I grew up with a family of doctors, and I was brainwashed to think that they were all smart. And when we cover our biggest story is Dan Markel and the Adelson murders, and when Donna Adelson, just now a grandmother, 75 years old, was on trial for murder in a murder for hire plot, the prosecutor started by saying, I know she doesn't look like a killer, but what does a killer look like? And here you have, by all accounts, a very successful person, a vascular surgeon. I'm going to get his picture up here. Just talk to us about, you just never know who could commit a crime this heinous. This guy went to medical school, or at least osteopathic school. I don't know which, but he is a doctor. And here he is accused of committing possibly, one of the most heinous types of crimes that is possible, Jeff.
Well, I'm never going to subscribe to somebody looking like a murderer from a physical standpoint. Their forehead's too big, or their jaw's larger, or whatever you want to talk about. Never going to be the case. But I would suggest that this individual does look like a murderer relative to what typically occurs when you have these types of situations and scenarios with the family court and that sort of stuff. It's like I said, he automatically, just due to the fact that he was an ex, would be at the top of the list. And then it looks like, and I can't compliment the Columbus PD more and these homicide detectives, because listen, it's challenging. Look at what we see often in many of these noteworthy cases that occur nationwide, where there's leaks of information. They were very, very disciplined in how they managed their messaging, and they used all kinds of restraint, and their level of professionalism couldn't have been higher. And, learning what we're learning now, it's really apparent to me that they knew very early on, and that what they did was they inserted their level of professionalism and put in their elite detectives, and they carried themselves with the highest level of integrity. And that's what brought us to this. And the reason that happened is this oftentimes is the scenario. This is the type of story. And that's why we look at close family members and stuff. And yes, it is uncomfortable when there is suggestion, when a lot of the conversations that we have here on this show are conversations that are in part kind of similar to the ones that we're going to have in the detective room around a table, where we're going to be talking about various things and just throwing everything out there. And reality is, it shows that the fact that this is the suspect, many of your guests' insights and things that they had a difficult time reconciling happen to be consistent with this guy actually being the guy. Because like we said earlier, it's about these people feeling a fear that they needed a wellness check on this couple so early on. My guess, and I suspect, it's because they knew something about this court case and about the actions and behaviors of this individual prior to the night of these crimes.
Selfishly, from a former broadcast news perspective, this is why traditional media is dead. I just got an alert on my phone from NBC News saying that there was an arrest made. They're a little late to the party. Rest in peace, traditional media, as we move forward and continue to crush you here in alternative and independent media. I had to take a little jab there. Felt good. Phil Ramos, primetime KCL. Look at this. They were only married 7 months. They've been divorced 8.5 years. Again, I mean, it's odd. If you came to me at 11 this morning before their arrest, I'd say, why would, how could this guy be holding a grudge for 8.5 years? Isn't that a little bit, I don't know, out of the norm?
Yeah, that is a long time to be sitting around contemplating what you're going to do next. That's why, we keep going back to what were these decisions that pushed him over the edge, because up until now, as far as we know, there wasn't going to be anything that would have pointed to him. But then again, one of the first things that we ask of friends and family members is, who would have wanted to kill them and for what reason? Did they have any enemies? Was there a fight going on? Was this business related? Was there a long lost family member who is coming out of under a rock and causing a lot of trouble? So one of the things you want to get from friends and family members is, which direction would they go in if they were doing the investigation? So I mean, that's always something I always ask, is that who would have wanted to kill this person if it wasn't obvious? If it was a whodunit, like this was for a while.
Yeah, this is it, Phil. This is interesting too. He was not practicing, and the other day I was looking him up all over Rockford and around, and I couldn't find anything on him like actively working. It says he was not practicing as a physician, as he never got a license or was board certified. That's got to add to the level of sort of despair and frustration. I'm sure he has. I would assume he has maybe loans taken out from medical school. This is the original wedding photo, by the way. That is Dr. Michael McKee, who's now in custody. And this is him, I guess, doing some sort of work. But Dr. Ramos, could it be Detective Ramos, could it be a combination of, a financial issue as well as jealousy? Because now his life, he can't, if he didn't pass the board, he's not able to, make a living, etc.
Yeah, that would be key, I would think, in this. Why wasn't he practicing? And was it because he just didn't have the heart to do it while he's going through this divorce process? Or was it that he just didn't have what it took to get licensed and start his own practice? That's something very interesting that they're going to want to go into, because it would explain why he sat around for 8 years and before he took any action. They're going to really go back into what was going on with this guy's life and in the months and years before this happened.
I've got some information from I'm just going to courtesy them. I don't know who they are. Plunder Studios here. Monique Tepe's marriage 7 months, and then apparently a divorce that went on a whole lot longer. It just reads here, because I was trying to find some information on this 55-page divorce document, and this popped up. Married August 22nd, 2015. People were wishing the beautiful bride and bridegroom the best. Mrs. Monique McKee, wonderful wedding, such a beautiful wedding, wrote one person. Congrats to Dr. and Mrs. McKee. This is from this 55-page document, I think. Wishing you many years of love and happiness. And it just goes on to basically talk about, again, that marriage was okay till it wasn't. And then clearly things went incredibly south. By the way, people are asking me what Carr mentioned, that is the matriarch of all true crime. My mother, 86 years young, she had a theory, and it was not this. So Carm is not correct about her theory. Sorry to break it to you, Carm, but she's all over this, I'm sure, watching. And this, I think, was a little bit difficult to predict. But let me go back now to the next steps here. And Jay, to you, who is a retired Columbus police Detective Jay Fulton. Let's say you're the lead detective on this. Walk me through what you're doing in that Columbus Police Department office today. What are you doing right now?
Well, if I'm the lead detective, I'm in Rockford. And I think one of our other guests pointed out, I'm preparing search warrants. I'm asking for assistance from either the Rockford Police, the sheriff's office where this gentleman resides. I'm preparing search warrants. I'm attempting an interview. I'm going to Mirandize him and attempt to interview him. And then I am going to do search warrants on any electronics in his. I'm going to collect electronics. I'm going to take them back to Columbus with me. I'm going to look for this firearm in his vehicle, in his home if we can physically put him at another location with that information on that vehicle. I'm going to prepare search warrants for those locations. If there was an office, if there is a girlfriend or another residence where we can put the car at some period of time from the homicide and up into the arrest. And I'm going to be over there in Rockford for several days, presuming that. Now, my partner's back there in Columbus. They're going to continue to break down this electronic and the digital. The recent phone activity, like I said, any contact on my victims' phones that comes from the Chicagoland area, if you will, because we probably understand now, based on everything that has been pointed out on this panel, that rapidity with which they investigated or investigated the, if I don't, not showing up for work, this people there knew that there was trouble. You don't call when somebody's an hour late to work and they don't pick up. That's just so that those are the things, those are the avenues they're going to. Plus, in the interest of a complete investigation.
Jay, I'm sorry. Let me just stop you there because it's my fault. I'm multitasking on this end. But are you saying, because this had come up before, that you think that the people in the dental practice knew that maybe Monique and Spencer were dealing with this issue, perhaps?
I believe Spencer has complained to people at work or people in his close family circle. This guy cannot get over my wife. He won't. He's starting to bother her again. There was some indication that he's probably looking at, she's living life, and here I am. Mm-hmm. And why is she living this life? She's moved on, and I can't get myself started. And if he externally approached the Tepe family about this in any kind of aggressive way, this is going to be something that Spencer would or Monique would have reported to family. Look, he just won't stop bothering us. So I think they're going to track that down. And additionally, they got to track down every lead that they got on this case and close them out in the interest of a complete investigation, so that the defense cannot claim at the time this thing goes to trial that this was a rush to judgment. You pointed at my client from the beginning. You had all these other tips. You did nothing. And that closes that door for any defense. If you follow up on the guy in the alley, you continue to follow up on any kind of other leads. So that's what these detectives are going to be doing from now until the beginning of this trial. So you're talking about months and months of more work.
Yeah, fascinating. Jackie here, vascular surgeon, so not stupid. I guess there are a lot of stupid doctors. No offense, doctors, but I happen to know a few. I would mention them, but their wives listen to the show, so I can't. They're friends of mine. Some of the smartest people are some of the dumbest people I know, by the way, who went to the best schools, but yet made some very stupid moves. Who doesn't think about cameras these days? Dental office probably knew about threats. Yeah, stupid gets you caught every time. For those who are new, because obviously we have a ton of new people, we do this every night of the week, Monday through Thursday. We have a panel of best guests in true crime. You're looking at 3 right now. Every night we've got 3 on the biggest stories. Obviously, when there's breaking news like this, we break in. When there are hearings and trials, we cover it. On Friday, the matriarch of true crime, Carm, my mother, a child Holocaust survivor. I have a book out about her called Surviving the Survivor, which is 10% her Holocaust story and the rest life advice, which I highly recommend. She joins me on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And please subscribe. We've got a Patreon page, but please give us some love on that like and subscribe button. It really goes a long way to help create this content. Now, back to some information, and I'm pulling this off of a third party here, Plunder Studios, so credit to them. And by the way, Columbus PD Sergeant, this is from the COE. The COE, by the way, is the chief of everything, also a former network news correspondent with CBS. She is my wife. Steve Cohen books all of our amazing guests. Space Coast on the West Coast does all of our tech stuff. And then we got the best mods in the business, best guests, and a better community. Columbus PD Sergeant James Fuqua confirmed Saturday that an official media release will be released within the next hour. Jay Fulton, to you, and then I'm getting back to Phil. But you expect a press conference today? Is Chief Elaine Bryant the kind of person who's going to take a victory lap and hold a press conference at some point today?
I would anticipate it, yes, and that's based on the media demand on this case. And if you will, yeah, I mean, they probably deserve to take a victory lap because this is hard work. It is hard work. The hours that these guys and gals put in on this case. So I think everybody probably deserves a victory lap. So I would anticipate they'll flesh out a lot of the details about how fast Mr. McKee came to the forefront and more specifically what things pushed him there. And they'll do stuff, but they're still not going to give out information because now you're not protecting the investigation anymore. You're protecting the trial preparation because after the arrest, everything leans toward trial preparation. You'll see attorneys, county attorneys at this point start to get involved. And you got to be careful what you say and what you put out. Ultimately, the defense will get all that information, but you don't want to give it to them until it's time to give it to them based on the rules of evidence and the court proceedings. So there will be a victory lap of sorts.
And you know what? They deserve it. Jeff Wenninger, to you. And I just interviewed Jeff for over the holidays, and it's under the video tab. And Jeff is talking about how in the most intense moments when he was in a gunfight and the person had, I think, a semi-automatic and automatic rifle, how Jeff would slow down under the pressure. And I can't overstate enough how calm, cool, and collected these law enforcement officers are. And again, for all the heat that the blue takes, these cases are solved by these guys, and you can tell all three of these guys are cool cucumbers here. So kudos to them. The question that's coming up, Jeff Wenninger, which I'm curious, how did he get into the house? How did he know the door code? They're gonna have to figure that out. What's the best guess on that, Jeff Wenninger?
Well, he either knew the door code or when Spencer answered the door, he recognized him, and knowing him, he allowed him in. We don't really know. That'd be just speculating at this point. But the fact that Spencer was found by the friend who reported seeing his deceased body in the bedroom next to the bed or partially on the bed would lead you to believe that they were confronted when in the bedroom, so that he must have made some type of entry without being actually let in, but that it was unforced entry. The reality is we don't know what type of relationship he maintained with this couple. At what point, perhaps, it went bad. Maybe they had the relationship that was fine, and then it went sideways. We don't really know. The one thing that I would pick up on is if you look at just the media and, especially like the social media, you see so many photographs of Spencer and Monique in their marriage and all that sort of stuff. And they're not getting that. The family's not releasing that stuff. They're getting that stuff off of their social media posts. So it's very, very possible, like Jay was saying, and even Phil alluded to, that this ex-husband, if it is true that he wasn't a practicing at this time, and that he was having some issues in his life, and that he was just fixated on seeing and these lives that on social media looked to be just pristine, and she had gone on and been successful in her life and was extremely happy, and his life was going in a downward spiral. That could point to the jealousy factor, especially with the knowledge now that I have that they were only married 7 months. I mean, there can't be a heck of a lot that she would be entitled to.
Yeah,
and they were married so long ago that he probably wasn't long out after school, and probably.
Yeah, Jeff, look at this right on cue as you're talking about this. Willow Armadillo, no alimony. She actually had to pay off a debt of about $1,500, or else would accrue a lot of interest. I know that from the IRS. Only shared assets were cars, no homes. But Jeff, just comment on this, and I'm back to this. In the affidavit of property with this divorce, I guess, settlement, Monique listed her engagement and wedding rings as, quote unquote separate property rather than marital assets. So she paid for her own rings. Why do you claim this is a separate property? She wrote, I paid for both the engagement ring, $2,500, and the wedding ring, $3,500. And then it goes on to say, instead of waiting for a standard court docket, the parties hired a private judge. The case was referred to Judge Donald A. Cox to oversee the final hearing. The motion stated this was to conduct the hearing in a more private setting at a more convenient time and allowed the divorce to be finalized just 6 weeks after the initial complaint was filed. This goes to 2017. I mean, this guy was simmering on this for years, Jeff.
Yeah, it makes me ask questions relative to what his mental health status happened to be. I mean, they were married only 7 months. There's very few marriages that end that quickly. There may have been some indication that he had some mental health issues, which perhaps could be the reason why he struggled so much after graduating from medical school, being able to be licensed and certified appropriately and practice as a doctor, if in fact that's true. So there may be some mental health aspect to this that we're not aware.
Someone pointing out, and I don't know if this is true, that this is incredibly shallow, but I'm going to point it out because I don't know. Someone says he's wearing a toupee in this shot, and I don't know if that is true, but it looks like it could be for sure. But I know some people that look like they're wearing toupees, and they are certainly not wearing toupees. COE, can you please keep an eye on local Columbus news? I'm assuming there will be a press conference, and COE, if you want to just let's see here. You have something up here. Shout out to our STS guests. We called them and asked them if they could review paperwork. This is all true and be ready to go live in just minutes, if not seconds. Jeff Weninger, Phil Ramos. If I knew Jay Fulton at the top of this show, I would have done that to him too. I'll do it going forward. Now you're in trouble, Jay. But it takes a village, and STS guests are a huge part of it, as our community. This guy never remarried. Now, I don't want to spread rumors, but I will go out and say that he was remarried, and a lot of people have suggested that he was remarried to someone of the same sex. I have not confirmed that. I have no idea. If someone in STS Nation can confirm that for me or come in the chat and let me know, okay, she says the COE, it is not confirmed. That has been out there. Could be 1,000% just a rumor, but that has been out there. And the fact that he was remarried within about a month's time of the divorce. So a lot of that sounds a little weird. Phil Ramos, I've had you quiet for too long here. The separation agreement apparently includes a strangely specific and punitive financial cause. It stipulates that Monique had to pay Michael exactly $1,281.59 for reimbursement of miscellaneous debt. The agreement further mandated that if she did not pay it by July 1st, 2018, interest would accrue at a rate of 23%. At the time of the divorce filing, the couple lived in different states. Monique was living in Westerville, Ohio, working for Nationwide Insurance, while Michael was living in Roanoke, Virginia, working for a place called Carleone Clinic. They had what was known as a standard mutual temporary restraining order. While this is often boilerplate in divorce cases to prevent the selling of assets, it specifically enjoins both parties from harassing, interfering with, assaulting, or doing bodily harm to the other spouse. Now, I know you're not a divorce attorney, but I know you've had cases, heated domestic cases. Just listening to what I read, I don't know what comes to mind here. It sounds like this guy was being very picky, at least at the outset with this divorce. And joining us in a second is going to be Phil Waters, the legendary Houston homicide detective who was investigated over 400 homicides. But Phil, to you, first off, your thoughts on sort of this picky, petty divorce stuff right after the fact.
Yeah, and after 7 months, I'm thinking, why in the world did they get married in the first place? If all this didn't happen over there, Big Phil. This stuff didn't happen overnight. I mean, it ended 7 months after they got married. So what made them get married in the first place if they had all these problems and all these financial issues? And man, that's a head scratcher right there.
Mm. We're joined now by the man in the red track jacket. That must be his weekend outfit. Phil Waters, please meet retired Columbus Police Detective Jay Fulton. You know Jeff Wenninger, retired lieutenant in the LAPD. I don't know if you've been on with Jeff. Detective Phil Ramos, Homicide, Vegas. And Phil Waters, he had his own show, The Interrogator, but he hates that word. He likes to use the word interview. And he was with the Houston PD for about as much time as Ramos was, 30 plus years, and spent a lot of them in homicide with one of the highest clearance and confession rates. And he teaches classes all over the world. This is the caliber of panels that we have at STS. We blow everyone out of the water. Phil Waters, I know you're never surprised. Your thoughts here on the breaking news of the arrest of Monique Tepe's ex-husband.
Well, other than that fact, I know I just saw, Steve wanted me to jump on and I saw I guess it was the arrest warrant. So I'm not, I don't know what the background here is for the arrest, other than the fact that I believed early on that this was going to be very, very personal, and that I believe that the husband was the target. And it looks like that's exactly what this is.
Phil Waters, I inadvertently insulted everyone, and I'll do it again. I said you guys are sort of like hairstylists. Like you get your hair cut, and it's part haircut, part therapy session every single time, which I love, being the son of a psychiatrist. But you guys are the same. You're part investigators, part psychologists. You're observers of human nature, as I think reporters are. It appears, what do you make now of the multiple gunshots to Spencer, the single gunshot to Monique? Was this divorce happened in 2017. It's 2026 now. Was this just brewing and simmering and bubbling over for all this time, and now he just unleashed his wrath on the husband of his ex-wife?
You talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Going to my Robert De Niro taxi driver mode.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, there are some things that it's like I have always said, anybody's capable of any act under the right set of circumstances. This character found himself under the right set of circumstances. So whatever the breakup was, whatever the divorce was, whatever the reasons were, this is not something that he wanted to let go. And it's always sex, drugs, or money. So here we've got, we'll take the matrimonial part. That's the sex part here. So a relationship was shattered as far as he was concerned, divorce and all that. And so therefore he's not going to share what he has lost. And I would imagine, given the circumstances, that this is something that he has thought about every day for the last 5 years, and now it's here. And he maybe it took him that long to get up the cojones to go do this thing. Who knows? Has there been any indication he has offered a statement or a confession or admissions of any kind?
He was, to the best of our understanding, he was arrested about 2 hours and 20 minutes ago. So this is all very new. Yeah, he was just arrested. But Phil, another question that came up while you were not here. And I apologize to the rest of the panel, but I'm just going to dip into Phil here for a moment. It is said that there was no forced entry. What does your gut tell you here? You think that there was this guy had the code to the home? You think he buzzes at 2 a.m, the ex-wife sees him and lets him in? What's your best guess here? And I know it's a guess.
Oh, my take is that they let him in. Who knows what he told them, or perhaps, you can always, I'm sure they can tell whoever monitors their alarm system at what point in time the alarm was activated or when it was turned off. I mean, even if he knew the code, you still got to get inside the home to turn the alarm off. So I've got to believe that somebody inside the residence let him in. I mean, who knows what kind of bull crap he told them to let them in to get access to them. But it kind of explains, well, first of all, this talk about a professional hit, that was ridiculous from the beginning. But it does explain to me why he didn't kill the dog and why he didn't kill those kids. Because he's not mad at them.
Yeah.
He's mad at her and he's mad at the Spencer. So he took out what he needed to take out, and his I think his main target was the husband. And I wouldn't doubt if he made a point to shoot him in front of her so she could see it happening. And then he took her out. So
wow. Jay, did you want to hop in there? I'm sorry.
Well, a lot of, we don't have access to the crime scene, but a lot of what has been released on that crime scene evidence. One thing is that the dog was secured in the room with the children. I'm a parent and I'm a dog owner, and you don't go to bed and the dog doesn't sleep with the kids. That would be highly unlikely. So that's an indication that somebody might have been in there, made that arrangement, probably by threat of force, to get the dog from bothering him, put the dog somewhere. He knew it wasn't going to harm the children. But here now Spencer realized he's got a problem. I mean, a big problem. And so I think with this digital lock, I don't think he would have had access to it. I don't think he's some kind of mastermind lockpick. So it does kind of point towards some way of talking his way into that house to work something out. Now, why anybody would open the door at that hour for that kind of conversation, that's for those investigators to try and explain, I guess. But the positioning of the dog and the children in a closed room, being a dog owner, being a parent, grandparent, this is not normal.
Yeah.
And that's allegedly how they found it.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And Phil Ramos, I mean, here's the question from Tina Lucille, which Jay just kind of skimmed over. I mean, the window of time that Columbus PD gave. And by the way, let's keep an eye out, COE, for a press conference incoming. Also, a lot of people are thirsting for knowledge about Michael McKee. Whatever we have on him that you can find would be great. But Phil Ramos, in the middle of the night, we're talking a window of 2 to 5 a.m. Let's say he did have something, nice to say as a false premise for entry. It's 2 a.m. Does that strike you as odd? I mean, it's a really weird time, unless you just want to take people completely off guard and do it under the darkness of night.
Yeah. I can't imagine circumstances where they would just come down and open the door and say, "Hey, buddy, come on in, let's have a beer." I don't think that on its face is how he got let in. If he would have come over with their permission and they agreed to see him, then that would have, I would imagine he would have called and said, "Hey, I'm in the area. I need to talk to you guys. It's really important. I know it's 2 a.m, so I'll keep it short," or whatever. And, the other thing over time in the years that we've been doing this, just because it says there was no signs of forced entry doesn't mean that there wasn't forced entry. I mean, you're looking at a broken window or pry marks on a screen door and stuff like that, but maybe they forgot to lock the door. Maybe they didn't bother, doing your nightly routine of setting the alarm and locking the door and before you go to bed, which is, what I think anybody who's got a system does that. I mean, that's the last thing I do before I go to bed, make sure all the doors are locked and turn on the alarm. It's going to be I'm curious to see how they make that determination of exactly how he got inside that house. Not that it's very relevant. I mean, the fact is he was in the house and he killed him, but how he got in there is going to be interesting.
Yeah,
Jeff, I could give you some from perspective as somebody that lives in Ohio, and it's very different than my experience living in Los Angeles. The community I live in, people often leave their cars unlocked, keys in the ignition. They don't lock their houses. They generally would lock them at night.
Jeff, that's because they know you live next door and you've got an arsenal and you're a former retired LAPD lieutenant.
But, the reality is that, and we're not far from Cleveland, about 20, 25 minutes from downtown Cleveland. And it's not that crime doesn't occur here. It's just in some communities in Ohio, people have this different sense of security. I don't know exactly where they lived. I don't know the crime trends or what have you there, but I would say it's been my experience living in Ohio that people aren't as security conscious as they are in Los Angeles.
You see here, and then I'm getting to Phil Waters in a moment, but Detective Fulton. By the way, Detective, do you know I don't know who the lead is on this. I assume you may know who the lead detective is. And also here, Winnebago County Court records show Michael McKee is scheduled for a hearing there in Winnebago County, January 12th, likely an extradition hearing to begin the process of his return to Ohio. Do you know the lead detective? Who is that? And what is this hearing? I guess it is Monday that it will happen.
I do know him. It's my understanding that it's Detective Russ Weiner. I think he's probably been in homicide maybe 14 years. He had arrived there shortly before my retirement.
Kudos to Detective Weiner, but go ahead.
Yeah. And that neighborhood, going back to that neighborhood is a kind of a gentrified neighborhood recently over the course of the last 10 years. 15 years ago, they called, that there was gunshots every night. It was a high crime area. The Wyland Park corridor there was fraught with crime. And so I don't see them leaving their door unlocked because there's still vestiges of that surrounding that area. You have some $700,000 houses located within a golf shot of some very, very sketchy structures and residences and activities. So I don't like the door being left unlocked theory, but then maybe it was an oversight, and so that's a possibility.
I was going to ask you, just a little bit more. It was on my list here. Wyland Park. It did seem, very regentrified. And I was reading at one point that it's being run by a gang. I mean, beyond what you just said, how do you describe it in terms of safety?
That was the Short North Posse is basically what they called the gang that for the better part of 20 years, a large part of my career, basically ran the crime in that corridor, robberies, narcotics, and shootings and homicides were prevalent. And that city's done a good job in revitalizing that, but it's still filters in that area. I mean, it's not all regentrified to this point. Attractive neighborhood. It's close to the university, and it's close to downtown, which are the engines that drive this city. And so I can understand why, if he's going to dental school, why he would live there. Because it allows him easy access to the university. And it's my understanding he was continuing his education. But I don't see it as a place where you might go to bed with the door unlocked unless it was an oversight.
Joel, I'd like to share one personal experience relative to the consideration of them actually letting this individual into their home. I had a buddy of mine, he was an LA County sheriff, and we were really good friends. And he started dating a woman who had recently been divorced, who was also a deputy sheriff. And she had an ex-husband and 2 young daughters from that prior marriage. And they intended on getting married, and they purchased a home together. And they would meet with her ex-husband, and we would often tell him, be careful. You know, oftentimes people perceive their ex-wife as their property. You're this person that has taken their property from them. And the reality, what ultimately occurred is this guy showed up to a home that they had purchased. They hadn't moved in yet. They were working on laying some tile in the kitchen. He came in through the garage, confronted him, and shot my buddy in the face and killed him. And this was a police officer in LA County, an LA County deputy sheriff. And so sometimes we oftentimes do not perceive the potential risks that we're putting ourselves at and actually accept the realities of some of the motivations of people, because we personally would never act out in that way. But the reality is that many people do. So that could speak to this guy's motivation. I mean, he just saw this individual who had an unbelievably happy life, as you can see by all the photographs that we've seen, and he resented it. And that was an individual, a man who took his wife.
Well, and that's a haunting story you just shared. If you're just joining us, we've been on the air hour and 25 minutes here. We're going to go a little bit longer. But we got breaking news early on that an arrest was made in the Spencer and Monique Tepe murders, and it is the ex-husband, reportedly, Michael McKee. Dr. Michael McKee was arrested at about 1 p.m. Eastern time in Winnebago County. That is Illinois, where Rockford, Illinois sits, and where he apparently was either living or trying to practice medicine. Apparently, he was having an issue being board certified to actually practice, but it appears it is the ex-husband who was just married to her for a very short time back in 2017. It is 2026 now, and Phil Waters said maybe it has taken him this long to quote-unquote build the courage to pull off something like this, as he was seething. And it just seems like a horrific outcome. Again, Spencer and Monique no longer with us. The 4 and the 1-year-old no longer have parents. The entire family shattered. The dental practice is just eviscerated. Another dentist there allegedly just died recently in that practice. So our thoughts go out to the whole family. And now this individual is effectively going to lose his life because of this horrific and horrible choice. Phil Waters, to you. There's no man, I think, that's probably done as many interviews as you. Please pull back the curtain. People don't know what it's like if you're the lead detective and you are interviewing Dr. Michael McKee, who is a doctor, equates to intelligence, apparently. How do you begin the interview, Phil Waters, and what is your end goal?
Well, the end goal, I'll answer that first, is obviously to get an admission or get a confession on why this happened. Why did he take this kind of action? In terms of the initial, I'm going to approach him as I do anyone. Want to recognize here that this man's, he is a doctor. Is he a medical doctor or is he a dentist?
A medical doctor. He's a vascular surgeon, but he did not pass his board certification, so apparently he's not practicing.
Okay. So, but he is intelligent.
Yeah.
And so you have to respect that this is a guy that's going to be analytical. He's going to be able to figure out pretty quick if you're BSing him. And so the approach here, at least for me, is to, again, as I treat everybody with dignity and respect, regardless of the act that they may have committed. And it's always a journey for the truth. So you go in there, and the first thing I want to do is establish that relationship, because I'm trying to get him to trust me, to share with me why this happened. And in doing that, I'm going to go first. I want to know about he and her. So tell me about that. When did you guys meet? How did you all meet? Under what circumstances did you meet? And when did the relationship between the two of you start to blossom into something more permanent where you get married? So I wanted to explain that background, because now that's going to lead me up to tell me what happened when the marriage fell apart.
And Phil, real quick, not to interrupt, but some people are saying he was not board certified. Now someone is saying he is. I have not independently independently been able to support. But either way, he's a doctor.
For our discussion, it doesn't make any difference to me.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that you've got to respect the guy is smarter than the average bear. But again, anybody's capable of any act under the right set of circumstances. So here we are, and we get to find out. You dig into the relationship, where it fell apart. I mean, I'd ask him, when did you notice that your marriage was starting to unravel? Let him explain it. I mean, because he wants to tell somebody. I guarantee you, guys like this, they want to explain why they did what they did because they're trying to justify it to themselves. So let him talk. Let him explain it. And then when you get to the point where they're now divorced, when did he find out about Spencer? When did he understand that relationship was starting to percolate? And how did you feel about that? What was your sense? I mean, you're going to have to do a psychological autopsy on this guy and get him to get down and dig deep and explain what caused him to do what he did. And my sense is that at least the people that I have interviewed under these kind of circumstances where they have murdered a spouse, take that approach, and in some ways you're going to have to be empathetic to him and ask him those good choice, bad choices question. Like, I'm sure when you went to the house that night, it wasn't your intention to hurt them. I mean, come on, Michael, you didn't go there with the intention of hurting them. And give him a way out so that he's a little bit more open about explaining why he did what he did. And I would just say, in my experience, that approach causes people to build that trust, and then they will start to talk. And once he makes that first admission, and of course, all these guys on the panel know exactly what I'm talking about. And, when you see the body language, when you're in there and you're watching what he's doing, how his body's responding, what he is saying, how he is saying it, keeping those little tidbits in the back of your mind because you're going to bring them up later. And then and ask that same question again and see how he responds to that then. So all of these things are building in that interview, and then you get to that question of the good choice, bad choice, and gives him the way out.
Phil,
so,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm going to come back to you, Phil. Alicia, Dave, Alicia, let's leave it at that. I need to see more evidence, Phil Ramos. Why would someone that had been divorced for so long do this? Both should have moved on. I guess life is not as easy, but Phil, I just want you, Phil Ramos, we got FIL and PHIL right next to each other. And Phil Waters, he's like me, got a little OCD, likes to be in that bottom left corner, and you just appeared that way, Phil. So someone is looking over us here. But
there you go.
Phil Ramos, when you listen to Phil Waters, any of you guys, it's always fascinating to me. But I got like kind of the goosebumps when Phil was saying, look, I know you didn't mean to do this. I know it wasn't your intent to go there and do this. How important, if you want to comment on this, it's been divorced so long, but then also just picking up on what Phil said in terms of the interview process, you want to build that rapport and give him a way to talk. How do you do it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you do. You start off being respectful and let him know, this. My name's so and so. This is what I'm doing, and we need to talk a little bit about what happened. But you don't go right into the murder. You start at an area that he's comfortable talking about, going back to a good time in his life, going back to when things were pleasant, and he was happy, and that'll get him down off of the holy cow, I'm in trouble here. And establishing that rapport with the bad guy, even though it's something that makes you grit your teeth. That's what you got to do to have a successful interview with him. So yeah, I get it, man. I understand that. And well, you get him comfortable enough that he's going to start talking about when he felt good about life and when things were going good. And then you slowly work into the ugly part of why you're there right now. And Phil's spot on. That's what we learned. Everybody has their own technique of getting establishing rapport with the bad guy, knowing that you're looking at a cold-blooded killer, but you need to get him to talk about what caused him to do that. And there's been plenty of times when I've been talking to a killer sitting across the table and say, "Yeah, man, I get it. I understand why you got to that point. Whether you agree or don't agree, it makes him think that, hey, this guy at least understands why I cut my wife's head off." It's a technique that we all try to get really good at, because if you can't establish rapport with a bad guy when you're trying to get him to talk about a murder, you better get somebody in there that's better at it than you.
COE, just indicate in the chat, if you can put it up there, if you have any word on a press conference. We don't know one way or the other whether or not there will even be a press conference with Columbus Police Chief Elaine Bryant, formerly of the Detroit Police Department. If there is, we'll bring it to you live. A few more minutes with these guests, and I just want to thank them again. You're getting 4 of the best investigators in the country on the drop of a dime. Big thanks to Steve Cohen, who books all our guests. Big thanks to COE, Space Coast, but obviously, and the mods, but obviously these guests: Jay Fulton, retired homicide detective; Jeff Wenninger, retired lieutenant in the LAPD; Phil Waters, one of the goats of homicide investigations, along with Phil, PHIL Ramos, another goat of homicide investigations. If you find a better 4 on any YouTube channel, any mainstream media, email me, survivingthesurvivor@gmail.com. I don't know what I'll do. I'll send you my mother in a UPS box or something. It won't happen. So that's how convinced I am here that it ain't happening. Phil Waters, you've got your finger up. Go ahead.
Yeah. And I just want to make a slight correction. Joel, you keep referring to us as investigators. We are detectives. And there is a distinction and a difference. And I know these other guys know exactly what I'm talking about. So
explain.
Well, investigators take a set of known facts and they investigate, trying to put the meat around the facts. Detectives go into a scene that they know nothing about, and they have no facts in front of them that lead them to a conclusion. So we have to go in and detect where we need to go based on the evidence.
Yeah, detectives have that level of curiosity that investigators don't have.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I concur.
And that's why sometimes people think we're crazy and crackpots, because we come up with these crazy scenarios. But that's because we're curious and we're asking the next question. And any little thing that just does not resonate quite right, and you have to reconcile it, you have to go down that path. And that's a detective. An investigator is, here, this is what I got. Let me know what this, it's a different thing. Yeah. So Phil is 100% spot on. I appreciate the fact that you brought that up, Phil.
Yeah. Look at this. This is from the COE. The Columbus Division of Police continues to actively investigate the homicide of Spencer and Monique Tepe. An arrest warrant was issued for Michael McKee for murder. He was taken into custody without incident in Rockford, Illinois. So we do not compromise the active and ongoing case progress. Information will be released as appropriate. Anyone with information from this incident is asked to contact the Columbus Police Homicide Tip Line at 614-645-2228, 614-645-2228. Detective Jay Fulton, please translate. And by that, I mean, this is the statement that the Columbus PD just put out. You see, the City of Columbus Division of Police. Does this mean we are not getting a press conference? What is the purpose of this here, Jay Fulton? Oh, you're muted. We're going to have to unmute you there, Jay. I apologize. Let me see if I can do that for you. Yeah, there you go, Jay.
Okay. Yeah, I could surmise here that maybe somebody at the basic level of this investigation, be it the primary or he has indicated to his supervision, his direct supervision, that he or they are not comfortable at this point putting more out. There may be some things they want to get taken care of first. Maybe it's the search warrants that they're going to have to serve in Rockford. Maybe it's the interview with the suspect. But until such time that these immediate hurdles are covered, Sarge, could you please tell the chief we want to hold off till we get these tasks done? And, I think a good chain of command is going to advocate for their investigator or their detectives, as we covered, and ask the higher ups, the people that are answering the questions, to hold off until we get to a point where we're comfortable and we can control what it is you want to put out, because the investigation will continue up until the day this thing goes into a courtroom. And those guys and gals will continue to follow up on every bit of information. And so I think maybe this statement being very general, it looks to me, it smells to me like somebody has said, hey, whoa, let's not take our victory lap yet, because we have things we want to tie down, lock down before we put stuff out to the public.
So Jay, just real quick, but Jay, I'm surmising here that there will not be a press conference then until this is completed, whatever they want to complete.
That statement coming out like that would indicate to me that maybe somebody's had a second thought somewhere. I'm sure they will. I'm sure a lot of high level, what I used to call management level decisions, because I was just a detective. A lot of management level decisions and discussions have taken place between City Hall, between the 8th floor of police headquarters, and between the homicide chain of command. And once again, the integrity of this investigation is the only thing that matters to those detectives. They don't answer to, I think Geberth was one that told us we all only answer to God, or we do God's work. And so, I think maybe this is going to take the place of a press conference for now until they have more solid things. Obviously, press conferences are going to ask questions we can't answer about the weapon, about a confession. And maybe we get a chance to investigate those avenues, and then the press conference will be more satisfactory to everybody that's involved in the press conference.
And I echo this. I don't know the future. I don't think anyone does. It's been great having Jay Fulton join us on the panel, retired homicide detective from Columbus. His insight has been incredibly valuable. Jeff, was that you that wanted to make a comment? Go ahead, please.
I mean, as far as the press conference, I guess I would be guided in regards to how the chief and the department handled themselves prior to this day. They didn't have a press conference on the front end. They sat down with one journalist. So they've been very measured. So I would expect them to be measured moving forward. And to give you kind of like a sports analogy, having been a hockey player, they've won the first round of the playoffs. Their goal is to get all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals and to win that. And that's what their sight is set on. So it's not even time yet for that victory lap. They're going to take that victory lap when this is all said and done.
Appreciate that. For those who do not know, that is Jeff Weninger, retired lieutenant with the LAPD. He's also the author of a book, On Thin Ice, and an incredible book, Reimagining Policing. You see here the Columbus Dispatch already with an article about reimagining policing. If you're just joining us at an hour and 43 minutes in, the headline is "This Man is Under Arrest in Winnebago County, Illinois." Dr. Michael McKee, the ex-husband of Monique Tepe. They've been divorced for close to 8 years, I believe, and he's in custody. A warrant was executed for his arrest on 2 charges of murder. This is who police say has killed Monique Tepe. Jeff Weninger, as we go around for final thoughts, what is yours? Obviously, kudos to law enforcement and especially the detective and the lead detective here on this case. Amazing work done in a relatively very, very fast and quick and expedient manner. Jeff, your final thoughts here.
I just got to be very complimentary of the Columbus Police Department and these homicide detectives. They've been very professional, and they've done everything possible to maintain the integrity of this investigation. And this individual being the suspect that has been taken into custody, not surprised. Everything indicates to me that they knew very early on this was who it was, and that they were working behind the scenes and dotting their I's and crossing their T's. And I just look forward to hearing more about what actually they have and what sort of evidence that they're able to obtain moving forward with the search warrants that they're going to be obviously engaged in Rockford, Illinois, and elsewhere.
Phil Ramos, PHIL, one of the cooler cats you'll ever meet. 3-time Las Vegas Police Officer of the Year. 3-time. This guy took $1 million in cash through a casino to infiltrate the Cuban mob. And when that was all done, he became a homicide detective and investigated plenty. And by the way, he was also there for Tupac Shakur's autopsy. So just adding a cherry to the top there. I like to brag about our best guests because we really have the best guests, and everyone else doesn't. So we do. Phil Ramos, happy you're with us. Your final thoughts here. In your eyes, is the process just beginning? Is it in the middle or somewhere closer to the end? I assume you're going to say just the beginning, but you're fine.
Yeah, it's this, volume 2 is now starting. Now you've got a whole world of information that you're going to get from the interview with the suspect, search warrants from his house, his digital devices, talking to his friends, relatives, neighbors, all of that. And they're on the clock now. They've got an arrest warrant, so they got to be ready to go to court. If his defense attorney says, "No, we're not going to waive our right to a speedy trial. We want to go now," so they've got enough. They got enough to get the warrant, the arrest warrant, the search warrants, but the work is just now starting because there's going to be a whole lot of information they're going to get from hopefully the suspect, but definitely from his home, search warrants from his home, his phone, his computers, his friends, neighbors, all of that. Yeah, this is just starting.
Detective Phil Waters, retired Houston homicide detective, just explained the difference between detectives and investigators, any which way you slice it. These guys are some of the best of people in this country, in this world. These guys catch the bad guys day in and day out. Phil investigated over 400 homicides. Waters, your final thoughts here. Thanks for coming on in the track jacket. I know you've got the Ferraris parked out back. This guy is the real life Magnum PI right here. He lives in Hawaii half the year. Waters, your final thoughts and your thoughts on this arrest today.
Well, I'm like everyone else on the panel. I just give the kudos to the detective and his colleagues that stayed with this thing. We've all been on these types of cases. I would bet you there was very little sleep by these detectives. They were rocking and rolling. You take those little 15-minute power naps and you roll on. So and it's all it's a group effort. You've got a whole lot of moving parts in these types of investigations, and they all came together. And I think that now we're going to wait and see what kind of the measure of justice that's meted out for this thing, and hopefully that brings some peace to the families involved in this. And again, just great work. And I would say we all need to be mindful, of course, of the families affected, and we need to keep Monique and Spencer's families in our prayers. But this question has been answered, and that is the first thing that everybody wants to know is who, and now that we know the who, then the next question is why. So I'm hopeful that this guy is sitting there in an interview room and he's breaking it all down for them to explain why he would commit this kind of horrific act.
Thank you to Phil Waters. Appreciate that. And a massive thanks goes out to Detective Jay Fulton, retired with the Columbus Police Department. Thank you for your service. Thanks to all of you guys for your service. Jay, I want you to give us your final thoughts, but can you just go back here with a little bit of a primer? Some people say primer, but So what went down today? The judge had to sign off on a felony murder warrant. There has to be a supporting affidavit. What were the steps to make this arrest, and what are the immediate next steps and your final thoughts, Jay?
So what would have happened this morning? I did not see the document what time it was signed. So what would have happened this morning is the primary detective and his partner would have gone to the supervisor and said, this is what we got. We want to file. Columbus is a charter city, so you don't have to have a judge issue the warrant. We are able to go ahead as detectives and file those warrants on our behalf. All that's required is us to go to the clerk's court in Franklin County or Columbus Municipal and swear out that we have probable cause to believe this is what occurred. They will issue the warrant. At that point, we would have been tracking the suspect through his vehicle. We would have entered that thing nationwide into the NCIC system and notified the appropriate authorities where the individual was located that this is a good warrant. We would have notified them through teletype, so they had authority and documentation under that warrant to make that arrest and to hold him in their facility to await extradition back to Franklin County, Ohio. A team of detectives is no doubt in Rockford or en route to Rockford. I don't know the timeline on that, with the purpose of executing further investigation there. So all the neighbors, family members, whoever this guy, they're all going to be interviewed just like the Tepe family was interviewed, with the same scrutiny. What's been going on in his life? I know one of the questions is he waited 5-7 years or whatever it is, 8 years. What happened in his life that finally caused him to break? So they're going to try and find out that event. They're going to try and secure physical evidence from his body, from his home, from his car. If he has a GPS in his car, they're going to download that, which will put him at the doorstep. So there's a ton of work to do. One of the things that happens, I'm sure these guys all know, you get a burst of energy when you get that arrest, and all those hours you put in, and as tired as you are, it's like a jolt of energy. You start fresh. It doesn't matter. You haven't slept. You've got to solve this puzzle, and your efforts and energy are redoubled. And these guys and gals, they're the hardest working detectives in Ohio. And I have full faith in them that they will solve this puzzle down to they will get this guy in a box that he is not likely to get out of.
Detective Jay Fulton, again, the men and women in blue. But Jay, please, number one, will you come back? We're going to stay on the story Monday. Will you be back?
Yeah, I think I could be available. Sure. Retired life is like that.
All right. Well, number two, tell your wife we say hello and make sure she subscribes.
I think she heard you.
We go one at a time. And please, kudos to your former department. Please send our congratulations once you.
I will do that, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, once you speak to your guys. And again, a huge thanks to everybody. Barry Morphew is in court for a hearing on Monday. We're going to try to bring that to you live if we can get it live. Accused, of course, in the murder of his wife, Suzanne Morphew. And then I'm sure be doing a recap show on this Monday night at 7. I would love to get this panel back together for that. We will keep you posted. And then if anything else,
by then whether he's going to waive or fight extradition. So that would be something that'll be established by that 7 p.m. Monday.
Yeah, and we'll have that by then. And thanks for subscribing. Please, on your way out, it helps us so much. Hit that like button. More importantly, hit the subscribe button. We've got a Patreon page that is reactivated where we bring you some behind the scenes stuff and additional content. And appreciate you being here for a special edition of Surviving the Survivor on Saturday. Again, the headline is that Monique Tepe's ex-husband, Dr. Michael McKee, was arrested in Winnebago County in Illinois today. He's in custody on a warrant with 2 charges of murder, expected to be extradited back to Columbus, Ohio. And we will continue to follow this story Love you all. Justice for the Tepes. Love you, Columbus. Love you, Houston. Love you, Vegas. Love you, Ohio and LA. And justice for Monique and Spencer Tepe. Guests, please stick around 1 second. Have a great weekend. Be kind. Don't kill anyone.